Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Cole. Saturday afternoon, March 26th. Now entering week 11 of Political Science 3143 Comparative Governments for the spring 2022 term. Everyone, we have Mexico on the syllabus this week. Let me say just a few words. We're making kind of a break at this point. Up to now, we've been looking at countries, all the countries we looked at are affluent countries that are allied with the United States. Great Britain, Canada, Germany, France, Japan. Now we're making a kind of break. We're moving into some countries that are unlike the United States in some important respects. Mexico is a country, certainly not everyone enjoys middle class degrees of affluence. Some people do. Next week on the syllabus we have Nigeria, where very, very few people are affluent. Most people are very poor. That's not quite the case with Mexico. It's maybe a 50-50 proposition there, with roughly half the population enjoying middle class or greater degrees of affluence, but the other half, poor people. So in that important respect, it's very different from the countries we've been studying up to now. Now, some observations we need to make about Mexico. Mexico, one important feature of Mexico is there's a very important constitutional norm. There's a 6-year term for the president, and the president is expected to serve only one term. Okay, that's a very important feature of the Mexican political tradition. Okay, the president is quite dominant in the Mexican system, and it's expected that the president is going to serve a single 6-year term. Also, everyone, up until the year 2000, Mexico would have been an example of a predominant party system. The party was the PRI, the Institutional Revolutionary Party. But it lost its predominance in the year 2000. It still remains an important factor in the system, but there are many other parties of equal or greater strength. The current president is a representative of a party called Morena, a left-wing party. Okay. He's known by his initials, AMLO, A-M-L-O, Andres Manuel López Obrador. President Obrador, one thing about him, a decade or two ago, he attempted to get elected and did not, but disputed the result of the election in somewhat the same way you might have thought Donald Trump did going back just a couple of years ago. He actually held an alternative inauguration ceremony and tried to have himself inaugurated as president over and above the individual who actually ended up serving out that term. He did eventually get elected. He objects to some of the policies of his predecessors. He's not as much of an economic liberal or free trader or free market enthusiast as some of his predecessors. His predecessors enacted the NAFTA agreement and its successor, the Canada-USA-Mexico agreement. López Obrador has not removed Mexico from that agreement. He's not as much of an enthusiast for that type of thing as his predecessors. His attitude toward the national oil company Pemex is different than that of his predecessors, who admitted some competition for Pemex. López Obrador wants to try to restore Pemex to its previous position of predominance in the Mexican energy sector. So he's a quite colorful character, to say the very least. You'll be reading quite a bit about him in the class notes. So he's a very forceful player on the current scene and an interesting individual that you'll be reading about. Okay, so those are some of the things going on with Mexico. Everybody, we got our 5th discussion in earlier in the week. We've got 2 discussions and 2 quizzes yet to go. I think what I will do, everybody, in the coming days, I will get an assignment out for a quiz to you, and we'll have 1 reading each, 3 in all, 1 each on Japan, Mexico, and Nigeria. We did Japan last week, Mexico this week, and Nigeria next week. Okay, so perhaps 1 article to read on each one of those for a quiz coming up in the next week or 10 days or so. So I may be getting that out next week. Watch for it. Okay. In the meantime, be looking at your class notes and your textbook assignment on Mexico. And this marks a break. A country not really formally allied with the United States, militarily speaking, although it is a signatory to that Canada, USA, Mexico trade agreement. A country that's not as affluent as the countries we've been studying up to now, all of which we would count as part of the rich world or the first world. Mexico, for its part, would be classified as a relatively poor third world country. So some distinctive things, and this kind of marks a break in the course as we move from Canada and European countries and Japan to Mexico, which is a third world rather than a first world country. All right, so we'll be looking at Mexico this week, Nigeria next week. Look for a quiz assignment in the next few days, and we'll be talking to you once again. We'll be focusing on Nigeria a week from now. So study hard, take a good long look at Mexico in your class notes and your textbook.